It was an animated show about an anthropomorphic horse, which possibly dealt with the topics of mental health and depression better than any other show before. On first impression, Bojack Horseman didn't appear to be a show that would eventually deal with such complex issues in such an effective and meaningful way. In the first episode, we're introduced to Bojack, the washed-up star of 90s sitcom Horsing Around, who spends his days drinking and struggling to write his biography. And over the course of that first episode, we meet the characters who will go on to make up the rest of the primary cast: Princess Carolyn, Todd, Diane, and Mr. Peanut Butter. When assessing the series finale of Bojack Horseman, Nice While It Lasted, I think you also have to consider the penultimate episode, The View from Halfway Down. The two episodes feel almost like different sides of the same coin. In The View from Halfway Down, Bojack comes face to face with the important people in his life who have passed away, while in Nice While It Lasted, he comes face to face with those who are still alive. For me, The View from Halfway Down is one of the best, if not indeed the best, episode of Bojack Horseman. I'd even go as far as to say that it's probably one of the best pieces of television I've ever seen. And I suppose this is kind of the point of this video, because when I first watched the episode, and as the line began to go dead on the heart monitor while the credits rolled, I couldn't help think to myself, wow, they're actually going to finish like this. I know there was still one more episode to go, but I thought maybe it would be a sort of posthumous episode, possibly the funeral of Bojack and a goodbye for the show's other characters. I suppose my thinking was swayed by just how powerful the end of that episode had felt, with a realisation dawning over both the audience and Bojack that he was dying and it was too late to do anything, as he eventually began to calmly accept his fate and finish his imaginary phone call with Diane. The episode begins with Bojack and a child-aged Sarah Lynn arriving to the Sugarman estate for a dinner party hosted by Bojack Horseman. Once inside, we discover that the other guests are all people who played a part in Bojack's life who have since passed away. Herb Kazaz, Crackerjack Sugarman, Corduroy Jackson Jackson, and Zach Braff as Beatrice's butler. Butterscotch Horseman later arrives to the party, but interestingly has the appearance of Bojack's idol Secretariat. As the episode progresses, each guest is served a meal which is in some way relevant to how they died, as they discuss the meaning of life and debate how meaningful their own lives have been. As the episode progresses, we begin to get hints as to what is happening to Bojack in the pool. He remarks that his bottle of water tastes like chlorine, and black tar begins to drip more frequently from the ceiling, landing on Bojack. A metaphor which is a callback to a line from Charlotte in Season 2, in which she describes LA as sitting above a tar pit, and later in Escape from LA about how Bojack changing locations won't change the person he is. When it's time for the show, things begin to get darker, as each guest exits into the abyss once they've finished their performance, and Bojack finally registers what's happening during a conversation with Secretariat, as he sees an image of himself drowning in the pool. Secretariat's performance of his poem, The View from Halfway Down, is really powerful stuff, as he describes how he realised after he jumped from the bridge and was halfway to the water that he wants to go back, and wishes he'd had the same realisation before he jumped. And when Bojack, seemingly beginning to accept his fate, tells Herb that he'll see him on the other side, Herb's response as he begins to disappear into the black tar that there is no other side is truly harrowing. What I love about the final few minutes of this episode is just how emotionally connected you begin to feel with the main protagonist. As he realises what's about to happen and decides that he doesn't want to go yet, you can truly feel his fear as he runs from the black tar, and his panic as he tries to call Diane. Like I said earlier, it's just really good television, and as the episode ends with the audio of the flat line on the heart monitor, it really hits you. I must have made the mistake of not watching the credits to the very end, where the heart rate starts beeping again, and so it was only when I began watching the final episode, Nice While It Lasted, that I discovered that Bojack was in fact alive. And I have to admit that at the time, I didn't really know how to feel about that. Your natural reaction as an audience is relief that this character who you've followed for 6 seasons is still there. But at the same time, The View from Halfway Down just felt like a really powerful ending. So I guess it meant that Nice While It Lasted, as a final episode, had a lot to live up to as a way to finish the story. Nice While It Lasted opens with a montage showing Bojack being rescued from drowning by the family living in his former home and being sentenced to 14 months in prison, before moving forward a year to him being granted a day's release to attend the wedding of Princess Carolyn and Judah. And from there the rest of the episode is basically divided into 4 sections, each featuring Bojack and one of the show's other main characters. In each of these interactions it feels like Bojack is saying goodbye to each of the most important people in his life, or maybe more them saying goodbye to him. The episode is obviously a lot more mundane and less dramatic than The View from Halfway Down. It maybe doesn't stand out as a great episode in comparison, but on reflection I actually think that Nice While It Lasted is a really good note to end the show on. Because after the chaos of Bojack almost drowning in the previous episode, Nice While It Lasted is almost an episode about what happens after. What happens after the event when life goes on. And in many ways that's what this show was about from the start. Bojack's life at the beginning of season 1 was basically him existing after his career on horsing around had finished. After the high of being a television star, it almost appeared that he felt his life had peaked, and everything after that was just existing. He spent his time looking back at reruns of his days on horsing around, but never looking forward. There's a line in the final scene with Diane and Bojack on the rooftop, which I think sums this up perfectly.
Life's a bitch and then you die, right?
Sometimes. Sometimes life's a bitch and then you keep living.
On the surface, Nice While It Lasted might appear to be a downbeat ending to the show. I mean, all of the most important people in Bojack's life have essentially made it clear that going forward, they've decided that Bojack won't be a part of their life. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for Bojack, or indeed any of the other characters. Firstly, we get to see that the other main characters have moved on to happier places in their lives. Todd has moved into his own apartment with Maud and has made peace with his mother. Princess Carolyn has found happiness with Judah. Diane has moved to Houston and is happily married to Guy. And Mr. Peanut Butter has found success as the star of Birthday Dad. For Bojack, I think one of the most telling things in this episode is simply how he appears to accept that his friends deciding that they won't be in his life anymore is for the best. Just by not protesting, he's probably showing an unselfish side for the first time in the series. Although we don't get any indication as to what the future holds for Bojack, that might not necessarily be a negative thing. We know that he'll finish his prison sentence in 1 month, and after that, well, I guess his future is going to be what he makes of it. During his subconscious experience while drowning in the pool, we see that Bojack had a realisation that when faced with death he decided that he wanted to live, that he at least wanted to find some closure or meaning to his life. The fact that he manages to show unselfish behaviour in the final episode maybe gives us hope that he might also manage to address his issues of self-loathing and destructive behaviour. Although the scene where Bojack opens the letter from Hollyhock would suggest that she decided she no longer wanted him in her life, things can change, and maybe if Bojack does truly manage to change as a person, then maybe he can one day in the future have a healthy relationship with his sister, or indeed with those who had been closest to him. It's certainly an open-ended finish, but maybe it's the type of finish that suits the show best. Or to partially quote Diane, sometimes you just keep living. Thank you all so much for watching. My New Year's resolution is to try to upload a new video every week. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you all next time.